At the time, it was actually kind of a rash decision to try minimalism. I was just so overwhelmed with being a stay-at-home mom with 4 little kids, and I was so unhappy with it. I didn't enjoy being a mom. I didn't feel like I was doing anything right, really. I didn't know if minimalism would be the solution, but I was willing to give it a shot. And so today I just want to take a few minutes to look back, let you know what I would do the same, what I would do differently, what I regret, and a few things that happened over the weekend that completely surprised me. Well, hi, I'm Dawn from The Minimal Mom. If we haven't met before, I'm married to Tom and we have 4 kids, ages 8 through 13. And like I said, we've called ourselves minimalists for 8 years now. And so I want to take you back to that first year when I was working on decluttering our home and what were my criteria for decluttering and what did I do with the stuff that we were getting rid of. And so when I heard about minimalism, again, I just heard a podcast with Joshua Becker, who's a very well-known minimalist, and he said, "Did you know you don't have to have all of this stuff?" And so the tricky part at the time was that there weren't really good parameters for what is a minimalist. Like, how much do you have? How much do you not have? What do you get rid of? Like, there was no step-by-step guide that I could just go through to declutter my home. So I had to come up with the criteria on my own after doing some Googling and not really coming across much. And so here were my criteria. The questions I asked myself were, are we currently using this item? Or do I know for sure that I'm gonna use it in the upcoming year? And if not, I decided to let the items go. Now, what did I do with those items? I donated all of it, or if it was broken or not worth donating, then I threw it in the garbage. But everything I donated. And at the time, we didn't have super nice things, fancy things. I had in my head had this threshold of $50 that if something was more than that, then I would try to sell it on Craigslist at the time. But for my stuff that I started with, there wasn't like really anything over $50. And so everything I would donate and I just brought to a local thrift store. Now, in the beginning, I didn't tell Tom what we were doing. And I just wanted to do an experiment. I mean, I didn't tell anybody what I was doing. I just wanted to do this experiment, see if it would work. And then I thought, if it works, well then obviously, then I'll tell people what it is that I'm doing. So it was almost a year before I let him in on it. And mostly, I think even looking back, part of the reason I told him is because we were gonna be moving and I wanted him to get rid of more of his stuff. And so then I finally told him what it was I was doing. But he had noticed that the house was staying cleaner, more picked up, and he does better in a more simplified environment now, I've come to learn. And so he really appreciated that it just felt like the house was easier to stay on top of, and like picking up toys and that kind of thing at the end of the day wasn't a big deal. So he could look back and appreciate the changes that had happened. And so then I think it made it a little bit easier for him to at least get his mind around it. It would be about 4 to 5 years later before he really started decluttering his stuff. But he wasn't one to keep lots of stuff anyway, so it wasn't a big deal. It was more than I would have liked to move out of our first house, but it was fine. And so what regrets do I have when I look back? A few. I regret that I didn't document the process, but that's because I was so embarrassed. I was very embarrassed by our home and the fact that I couldn't stay up on it. After all, if I was a stay-at-home mom, then I was supposed to be able to do it all, right? And so I was embarrassed by that. I wouldn't have wanted anyone to see like my messes at that time. So I did not track any of it. And I do regret that. As far as stuff that I got rid of, I've shared this before, but there's very little, like under $100 worth of stuff that I have since been like, oh, I wish that I would have kept that, or I could have made use of that. And so I have practically zero regrets. Like statistically, it's like 0%, right? So as far as what I would do differently or regrets, honestly, there isn't much. I know, often people will say, well, I wish I would have done it sooner or found it sooner. I could say that too. I think all of us could, but I just didn't know what I didn't know. All the stuff I had was stuff that I thought you should have when you are running a household and you have kids and a family. And so I try not to be too hard on myself because I was working with the information that I had at the time, right? And I didn't know a different way to run my household. Now, there's a couple things that happened this past weekend that have been it just was really surprising to me in regards to minimalism. But first, today's video is sponsored by Helix Kids. And if you saw our update of the boys' bedroom, well, and here, huge declutter, that does not bid well for minimalism. But we got to put some new mattresses in their room and they have been so cool. So they're the Helix Kids mattresses. And here's what's so cool about them is they're actually double-sided. So one side is actually just a little bit firmer, and that's for ages 3 through 7. So kids those ages actually need a little more spinal support for their growing bodies. But then for ages 8 through 12, they actually prefer them a little bit softer. It's a more comforting feel. So you can flip the mattress over when they get a little bit older, and then the other side is perfect as they grow. But here's what's also so cool. They've thought of everything when it comes to your Helix Kids mattress. They're made without harmful chemicals. They've gone through extensive lead and phthalate testing to ensure your little sleepers' safety. They also have a hypoallergenic cover that's great for moisture wicking and airflow, and also an eco-friendly and plant-based durable water-resistant finish that is both stain and water repellent, because, well, sometimes accidents still happen. But beyond that, it also has a microbe shield that combats odor-causing bacteria to maintain hygiene. The Helix Kids mattresses have been tested and approved by medical doctors, sleep consultants, child behavioral specialists, and most importantly, real parents and kids ages 3 through 12. But just like the Helix mattresses that we love, shipping is fast and free in the US, so it comes rolled up in a box, delivered right to your door. They are so convenient to set up, and then your child gets 100 nights to test it out and make sure that it's just the right fit for them. They also have a 10-year warranty and financing options with flexible payment plans. And so of course, Tom and I always talk about how much we love our Helix mattress. So Corbin and Gage have had theirs now for a few months and they love them. And so we're so glad now that the boys have some supportive and comfortable mattresses of their own, man, especially with how they grow. So if you use our link down below and visit helixsleep.com/minimalmom, you'll get 20% off your Helix Kids mattress and 2 free pillows as well. I had vowed that when we got our house decluttered, if I really achieved it and got it simplified, that I was going to start a blog and I was going to talk about how much to keep and all of that, right? Because there was just so little information out there when I started. But this, to be sitting here 8 years later and get to visit with you and to help you get to declutter your home in this way has been so cool. And I am so humbled, and it just feels so fortunate that we get to do this together and that you have allowed me to help you. It has been awesome. But I got to go to Arkansas recently and go ATVing. While we were gone, what happened was that the snow was thawing here in Minnesota and we were getting rain. So there was a lot of moisture going into the ground. And our basement, it has 2 sump pumps that are supposed to pump water out if water gets into the basement. But one of them is a little finicky and it doesn't always turn on. Like sometimes you have to go down there and tap it and then it'll turn on. About 80% of the time you have to do that. So we were gone for 5 days and we came home and there was standing water in almost all of the basement. Not quite all of it. The floor is very unlevel. And so we got home and I did my best to get it kind of squeegeed and directed towards the sump pumps, get them kicking on again. But then this past weekend, even there was still some more water coming in. And as I was down there, it only took a few minutes to kind of squeegee it to the drain again. I was thinking about how in the past, if our basement would have gotten water in it like that, it would have been catastrophic. There would have been so many things that would have been ruined or would have needed to be cleaned or laundered. And it would have taken me the full weekend to deal with it all and to recover from that. And it would have been very stressful and time consuming and annoying. But instead, this weekend, let's see if I can grab these. Instead, I had just gotten some seed starting trays and some seeds. Instead, I got to be working on starting seeds and learning how to use these and what to do. And then I also was reading about lemongrass is supposed to repel mosquitoes. Is that true? I would like to know if that's true or not before I plant a bunch of lemongrass. But so then I was looking at patio planters where they have lemongrass in the middle and then what flowers could you plant with it. And it was so enjoyable for me because the weather, if you live anywhere in the upper Midwest right now, we're so annoyed by the weather. It was 80 degrees last week and now it is 40 degrees and incredibly windy. Don't let the sun, the beautiful sun coming through the window. And so last week I was flowers, I'm gonna plant my garden. And now this week I'm yes, they will be living inside for quite a while yet. Anyways, it's fine. But we had just a very low-key weekend and I got to be thinking about flowers. I also helped my grandma pack And it was just really interesting going through her house and seeing the stuff. My grandma is very neat and tidy, but even just kind of seeing what's at the back of the cabinets and the back of the closets and realizing how for most of us, we just have a lot of stuff that we've accumulated that we don't use. And so coming home and being like, I don't have that stuff in the back of my cabinets anymore. And that, like, I don't know. There was like this satisfaction because again, if you know me at all, like I'm a messy person. I've always been a very messy person. And so to think if we had to like pack up our house really quickly, which we don't want to do, I want to live here forever. But if we had to, I don't think it'd be that big of a deal. And I feel like as I would pull stuff out of any cabinet or drawer, I'd be like, yeah, we're still using that. Yes, we're still, yep, use that, currently using that. Yes, like everything in our home we currently have. And that feels really good. But here's the other thing that surprised me about that then. I was asking her oldest, she's 13 now, and I was kind of sharing about, you know, this experience of packing and all of that. And I was like, Adeline, just be honest with me. Like now you're old enough, like you go to friends' houses, you go to other people's homes, and you know, you've experienced more. Like, do you feel like we're missing out? Do you feel like our house is weird or that we've gone too far? And she said, no, not at all. And she's also one now, like, I mean, all of the kids help if someone's coming over, if we're getting the house ready, but she especially helps a lot like in the kitchen. And she's like, no, like our house is so easy now to get ready to have people over. And that's another thing that happened last week was Tom's sister and her husband and their 3 kids were coming down to the Twin Cities kind of unexpectedly. And they're like, hey, can we spend the night? And we're like, yes, you can. Like I can say that because it doesn't take me hours and hours to get our house ready. And so even just like over this past week, it's just been reinforced over and over again that I don't miss any of this stuff. And then today I got to record an interview with Rachel Cruz. I'm not sure when it'll play, so I will let you know. She's like very far ahead and you know, she's very good at all of that. I'm not so far ahead and it's totally fine. But we were talking about, she wanted to talk about the video, The Myth of Being Behind. And she said, Dawn, when did this occur to you that most people feel behind, but in many ways it's kind of fictitious? And I said, it came to me as I've been helping others declutter their homes because there are very real things that we can be behind on, like taxes and our mortgage payment. And most of us need to go to work or like we will not have a job anymore, right? But then there's all these other things in our home, like unfinished scrapbooks and recipes we haven't tried and jeans we haven't mended and photos we haven't put in albums and you know, I mean, don't even get me started on the craft projects we haven't finished, right? There's all these other things in our home telling us that we're behind. And the truth is those things should not be allowed to say such things to us, right? Like we don't have enough time for all of the things that we have in our home. And so as I've been willing to let the unfinished craft projects go, I mean, I had so many unfinished craft projects too, right? As I've been willing to let that stuff go, so it wasn't in the basement getting wet a week ago. I didn't have to, like literally one time our basement got wet, I had to wash all of the fabric and I ended up throwing a lot of it away, right? So I didn't have unfinished craft projects getting wet in the basement, which meant I didn't have to spend my weekend dealing with all that stuff. It also meant I had time to go help my grandma pack, which I was really grateful for. And I also had time to do the one hobby that I've decided I am gonna do right now, which is gardening, and not just vegetables, I have lots of flower seeds too. And so I get to spend my time doing this and still feel like a good mom in the process too. And so it's just, again, it's so surprising to me that I feel like we can have such a full life. I don't even feel like a minimalist in our home. Our house does not feel weird. It doesn't feel bare. It doesn't feel like we're missing things. I don't even think about living as a minimalist because it still feels like we have everything we need. And I can look back now over 8 years and say, I don't miss it. I do not miss the stuff that we got rid of. I don't have any regrets. I don't even beat myself up over not doing it sooner because I am so much kinder to myself now. And I have more confidence in myself since I've been able to declutter my home, and I don't allow stuff in my house to bully me. And so if it's telling me things like you're behind or you're not good enough or you spent too much money on me or this was a waste or anything like that, I invite it to leave my house because I have standards now for what's in my house and what isn't, and that does not make the cut anymore, right? I'm not gonna allow that in my house. I look back over the last 8 years and I'm like, I would do it again and again and again. If it took 3 years, I would absolutely do it again. If I had made a bunch of mistakes along the way, I would still do it again. It would still be so worthwhile. And so I'm sorry if you get frustrated. I'm sorry if you feel like you have made mistakes when you're decluttering, but don't stop, because you're probably in the messy middle right now, and we can get kind of turned around and we can kind of lose our focus. But if you keep moving forward and continue to declutter your home, it is gonna make your life so much better and so much easier. And then you'll get to do the things that you really enjoy and not have to feel guilty about all the other stuff, because it doesn't matter. Like, so much of it does not matter. Well, thank you for all of your support along the way. I honestly, how cool, how cool that this is what I get to do. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I am so grateful for you, and I believe in you. I know you can get your house decluttered too. I know there's bumps along the way, but keep going, because it is so worthwhile. I love you. I hope you have a really good day, and I'll see you again soon.